Call the workshop to order. It is January the 10th. We're here for a one agenda item, which is listed on our agenda as citizens forum. It is a regular council workshop, so we'll have minutes, things will be recorded, and you'll be asked to come to the podium, state your name and your address. Please be concise with your comments. Hopefully tonight we're here to listen, you're here to talk, and we'll find some type of constructive dialogue to be able to answer or at least give information that you're looking for. So with that said, council, I'll open by any comments from the table before we begin. Okay, then we will start the forum by allowing those who are ready to come forward. Again, just state your name and your address for the record. Just come forward, yes.
Teresa Horn, 312 Thornton Avenue. First, the concern, just sort of basically would like to know why. Carabelle's got about 1,300 employees, or residents, excuse me. Appalachia's got about 2,800. Wewall, 1,800. MB, is this correct, around 1,000 residents? Is that correct?
That's correct.
MB, Mexico Beach, has got somewhere between 45 to 48 employees, is my understanding. Carabelle, 24. Appalachia, 28. That includes the police and fire. Wewall, 19. That includes the volunteer fire and the sheriff. Mexico Beach has 1,000 residents, and we've got 45 to 48 employees. There's a huge gap there, and I'm just curious as to why. Compared to other cities that are similar in,
You talk about number of employees?
yes, versus number of residents. I'm just kind of confused
I'll be
as to
honest with you,
why there's
I'm
so.
not familiar with how many employees we have.
36?
I thought it was 33.
8 counts,
I
38.
38, okay, 38.
38. Okay. But that's still so much higher than the others with the number of residents. I mean, I'm just kind of, that just sort of brings a question to mind as to, you know, why do we have so many employees in looking at our budget? And that was sort of kind of something that was glaring to me. And I just was wondering why.
Why? Anybody want to answer that? I don't know why we don't think of ourselves, I don't think of ourselves as being overemployed with employees for what we do here.
Okay.
There's not anybody standing around, they all have designated jobs to do every day and stay gainfully employed. I don't think you could really put the number against, the actual number against what has to be done in the city with the number of residents.
Rooftops.
Yeah.
Rooftops is better than residents.
Did they have the garbage trucks, these other communities, you know, we have our own garbage. That's something, how about Wewall?
Wewall has a volunteer fire, and
The
they
garbage
also,
truck, we have our own garbage, that's why, that's gonna be, that's
which,
improved.
that's a really good point, and just out of curiosity, has there been any kind of a study to see garbage truck bidded out versus us having our own, just out of curiosity?
I was told many years ago, you don't mess with our sanitation.
I'm just,
We have great sanitation workers, they work with our people. Are you satisfied with the service you get?
yes, I am, but I'm just
Okay.
curious, you know, we're just
Now,
looking
wait,
at
wait.
budget fixes,
Okay.
and I'm just wondering
Does
if there's, looking at
Wewall
ways
have
to
the
possibly
tourists that we
save.
have? Does Wewall has the tourists that we have?
No, I don't believe they probably do.
And that's why I like looking at rooftops. I mean, I'd be curious how many rooftops we have here. I don't know the number.
I don't either, so, but I was just curious, but we do, that was a concern, and that's,
Okay.
That's all I gotta say on that.
Thank you, ma'am. All right. Next, or whoever.
I got
Okay.
Alex Hogan, I live on 7th Street. I lived here, well, I used to come here probably around 2000 or 2010, and we used to have the prettiest water in all of Mexico, in Florida. But it seems like recently, in the last 5 or 6 years, our water is either dirty or cloudy. Nothing like Panama City or in Destin area. And some people attribute it to the 8th Street Canal going into the water. Is there any plan to kind of fix that? I mean, we say we're big on tourism trying to attract, but that's not very attractive to see those waters.
Our stormwater system is our biggest plan. The property we just bought, hopefully, is to drain in there and stop having 8th Street drain into the beach.
Are you gonna block it off?
Well,
You can't stop the
yeah,
drainage.
in a sense. Now, but that's all part of the stormwater plan, and it's something we're working with now with all the different authorities and all this, and getting the right cost for it. But I think that would do a lot of it.
Now,
But
where's
we've
that on-
had that same drainage for all these years.
But the water has changed. I think the color of the water has definitely changed since I've been coming here in 2010. You know, and I'm talking about recently too, within the last maybe prior to Hurricane Michael. It seemed like it's not as pretty as it used to be. And so I understand. So is there any projection on we're gonna do anything to that? Or are we just gonna continue to let it get ugly?
We've been working on that. That was identified, I mean, since Michael, we identified that as a major need to try to, and that's something that just historically this city's discussed for a number of years about a way to change the outflow at 8th Street Canal. But you have to remember, the whole north side of town, or the east side of town, the way the drainage is set up now, you're gonna have to have some what they call holding basins in order to do that. And one of the things we did, like Bobby said, we bought that property, but that's only a piece of the pie. And 2 or 3 dump trucks full of money is gotta happen, but it's not out of it has been identified. I don't know the likelihood of in our lifetime of that happening. I'm being just perfectly honest with you, but we would all love to see that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
George Gill, 124th Street. An event happened a few days ago that I think sort of changed the way I was going to make my initial comments. And I'm still going to make some comments, and I'm going to take my turn, sit back down at the back of the line and ask a few questions if we still have enough time. But comments that I changed to seems like a random letter that many of us had received in the mail a few days ago. Really got this city buzzing. And the buzz was not so much about the content of the letter, because I've been told that was spot on, but about the fact that the letter was unsigned. The author of the letter has been labeled a coward in social media by many folks. Folks are mad, again, not because of what the letter said so much, but because the fact that the sender didn't sign it. Well, I can clearly understand why the letter was unsigned. The author of that letter is most certainly a friend of ours, somebody that lives maybe next door to us. But for whatever reason, financial or personal, can't merely pull up stakes. They must stay and endure. And they simply want their voice to be heard, but they don't want to lose friends. And they don't want to lose friends over some small pond politics. But I tell you, if they'd signed their name to that letter, they most certainly would have. And I understand why that letter was unsigned, because I stand here tonight with some very pointed and direct questions myself about my town. And I've already lost some friends for sharing my views and speaking out. And I promise you I'm probably going to lose a few more tonight. Yet I refuse to fault anyone that is hesitant to pay that price, that doesn't want to lose any of their friends. And that's the price for not being anonymous. And that's the price I'm willing to pay tonight. I'm asking all of us to stop worrying so much about who wrote what, pay more attention to what was written. It's not cowardice to want to share facts, but at the same time not want to lose your friends. I actually believe the person who wrote that letter is a watchdog. And we have maybe a handful of watchdogs that keep us abreast of what's really going on in our town government. They represent the proverbial burr under the saddle of city government, and believe me, they are not well liked by the city government. These watchdogs level the playing field between what we are being told and what's really happening. And we may not always agree with what they say, but we need these watchdogs. In fact, we need more of them, and I'll tell you why. I've owned property in Mexico Beach now for over 40 years, and in all those years, I've never seen this town so divided. We've become a microcosm of what we're witnessing right now across our once great nation. Government constantly telling us my way or the highway. You got problems with how things are going in Mexico Beach? Cut your anchor rope, sail away, because you must have dropped your anchor in the wrong place. I have several questions tonight that I hope I get a chance to ask and get answered, and I'm more than willing to get to the back of the line, wait my turn, and we'll see how that goes. We have a city election coming up in April. We know that all city elections are important. This one, however, is critical. This one may well define the direction of Mexico Beach for years to come. We as voters must not simply cast a vote for who's most popular in the community, who's lived here the longest, who loves Mexico Beach the most, or who wants what's best for Mexico Beach the most. We need to vote for who will represent us the best, who will let our voice be heard once again. Thank you.
Good evening. Russ Conklin, 800 Highway 98, Paradise Shores. I was going to come this morning and voice these comments, but I looked at my watch and it was like 9:15 and I'm like, oh crap. So anyway, on a completely different note, I remember watching a meeting not that long ago when they talked about looking at the possibility of a dog park in Mexico Beach. I was very interested in that. But I just lost my dog. So my dog was 15 and a half and I had to put it to sleep. Anyway, so there's many other residents in Mexico Beach who do have dogs. And I'm sure they're as much interested in it as I used to be. And so I'm up here speaking, just asking if there had been any progress on researching a spot for a dog park in the city as opposed to jumping on your golf cart and going out to Veterans Park where they do have a very nice dog park.
I was the one that really brought it up.
Oh, I remember somebody did.
Get the right location.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like the airport. People want it, they don't want it by their house. So getting the right location is the key.
Yeah.
And I would think maybe on this 80 acres would be a good spot that we could utilize it on.
Just hadn't heard anything about it, so I just wanted to, bring it back up and see if we,
Looking for the area so I can bring it up again.
Second thing, we had a fantastic Christmas golf cart parade. Now, I've been to other little towns that had 4th of July golf cart parades. Has that ever been considered, having a 4th of July golf cart parade? Like 11? Now that we're getting past where some of these major issues were, because the city's done a fantastic job since 18. Really have. I'm proud to live here, been here 3 years, and I just wondered, I haven't heard anybody else ever bring that up about a possibility of looking into perhaps a 4th of July golf cart during the day. You know, a lot of people don't, you know, have little children, they're not up at night, or they don't feel comfortable with their children or whatever standing on the side of the street. Although many people did, it was great to see just a possibility of looking into a.
Have you been here on the 4th of July?
I have, but I stay home to wait for the fireworks.
So maybe you've answered your own.
Anyway, it was just a thought I had, so I figured I would bring it up. But thank you all for everything you did.
Yes, sir, thank you. Appreciate it.
Tim King, Kathy Lane. I just wanted to point out that I don't see any progress yet on 5th Street of taking deliveries behind the buildings. I don't see any work being done. As a matter of fact, they closed off the double doors on the back of the buildings and made it a single door, which makes it a lot harder to take deliveries. Just my observation. The other thing is, I just wanted to say that in this town, it seems to people that it's very discriminatory. It's very selective of how they enforce things in this town, against who. And it just depends on who you are, who you know, who's your friend. Even state laws and regulations are not enforced. I brought this to people's attention, it's totally ignored. So, but here at this meeting, like, I was threatened to be thrown out of this meeting once because I laughed with someone, a president of a local bank. But then they allow an intoxicated person to come in here and make a fool of himself and interrupt everybody, but that's okay. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with everyone this evening, and for the chance to see some people I see in other venues and church and what have you. My name is Ray Horn, and our address here is 312 Fortner Avenue. It's very nice to have a second home, and I truly mean home in a literal definition of that. I'd like to know that based on the $132 million in new available assets, which yielded about $832,000 in new revenue, why didn't the city pass more tax relief onto the citizens? Did y'all feel that the $54,000 annually that the raises healthcare and retirement cost the city, is that insignificant?
Why we didn't pass more? Did I hear you right? Is that the question?
No, sir.
Why we didn't pass more savings?
I'd like to know why the city didn't pass more tax relief on to the citizens. It's my understanding, based on research, that the millage rate here is significantly higher than, or is higher, I should say, than any other municipality in Bay County.
Oh, sure it is. It always has been.
And why is that?
It always will.
Why would it
Because
always be?
85 to 88% of our budget is derived from ad valorem tax.
So it's always going to be more?
It's always going to be more.
And why is that?
Because other municipalities have other sources of income based on state revenue that's based on population, and as long as we're who we are and at the size we are, it doesn't matter what we pay in, we're only going to get back based on population. So
The sales tax is collected as a whole in the county and divided out to the municipalities based on permanent population. So until our permanent population goes way higher, we'll never get more sales tax revenue.
So given that, why does there seem to be a tough row to hoe, for lack of a better term, to develop new business and new commercial interests here that would, according to y'all's comments, generate additional tax revenue?
Don't, you'd have to ask that again, I'm sorry.
I was told by a commercial realtor, I asked him, why can't you get us a restaurant here? He
Why
said,
can't
you
you
gotta
what?
have people.
Why can't you what, I'm sorry?
Get a restaurant. He fuzz.
Great
Said
question.
you gotta have people. And you gotta have people to get it. And it's a double-edged sword there.
So it's
Now,
like.
we did drop our millage rate past couple of years, $1.5 million. Looking to do it again. So we are trying to drop it down.
I think one of the things you gotta think about when you, when you're starting to try to pull in any type of business or anything, they have to look at what they're paying for the price of property.
Without question.
Price, and the price of property here is very high, so if we're not going after, a franchise type of business, and it's an independent owner type person, I think it takes a lot more offering on our side for them to get in, buying $1 million piece of property and then have to invest another 2 or 3 million to put together a building and restaurant.
Could you elaborate on the offering?
Well, I'm not sure what that would be. I mean, that'd be amongst us. I mean, is it something that we lease land that we currently own? Is it, there's probably a couple different suggestions.
Yeah, but again, the main thing we gotta remember here is by increasing business does not increase our sales tax money here. It doesn't stay in the city. It goes to the county. And then until we build our permanent population, we're not getting any more sales tax money.
Could that have ancillary domino effects where the creation, founding, establishment of one business might lead to another additional employment, additional tax revenue based on the wages?
Yeah, and then permanent population to staff it, and yeah.
Thank you. I believe my time's up. I don't want to overdraw.
Floor's open.
Oh, but- Well, I got one more. I can't have you silent,
I mean, come on.
I haven't had dinner yet. Alex Hogan, 125 7th Street. And it's kind of a carry on from what the gentleman just talked about and what Adrian has spoken. The key then obviously to reduce our taxes is based upon permanent parties being here. But yet we seems to be on the mindset that building all these grandiose places, townhouses, town halls, hotels, are more of a tourist attraction than it is permanent party. And we've gone gung-ho. I was reading this thing here passed out here. You look at some of the numbers and we're talking about 2,800 people possibly coming in here. And our infrastructure is not even near ready to accept that many people. So are we going to continue this train wreck of just passing out permits, granting people to build and build without the infrastructure? I mean, there's only so much we can do. Why can't we slow down? Slow this pace down, let some of these roads be built. The bypass, that'll be 30 years down the road. I won't even be here.
It's a 5-year plan.
You think so? Well, I hope to be here, but
That's what I've heard since I moved here 10 years ago. It's on the 5-year plan.
well, maybe we ought to do that too, is have a senior citizen home. That might even be better. They'll be pretty permanent for a while anyway. So, but my point is, we need to kind of think about slowing down. Looking at all these numbers that are possibly built on, we talked about getting ready to go into phase 2. And the guy said, phase 2, that's pretty good. And I said, how long is that gonna be? He said, maybe 6 months. 6 months to a year. Well, that goes pretty dang quick. And the ramp, boat ramp, road, they're working on that, that's good. But is it gonna be sufficient to handle the traffic that's gonna happen. But basically, back to the original point, we're moving too fast for our infrastructure. You know, we're talking about $600,000 toilets for these parks. You know, that's ridiculous. As one man said, that's what the Air Force used to charge, you know, for toilets. But be as it may, and I don't know, can we slow down? I can't answer that. It seems like to me, St. Joe Group is running us instead of us running them. Okay, thank you.
Before we leave that, even though I don't think of that as a question, it was just a comment, but I think we came here to sort of talk about things. The St. Joe Company, they annexed that property some 6 years ago, 7.
2006.
Okay. Well, no, they presented their PUD. They presented their PUD, planned unit development in that time. So it's been sitting there with a development plan for a number of years. It's not like it just happened. They met all the criteria, no different than other people that have come to our city. They go by the same book that we all use in terms of our LDR. And they presented a growth plan that was expedited because of the rebuild of Tyndall from the storm. So we as a city government don't have, I mean, if you own the land and you're annexed in and you go by our rule book, it's not like we can say, when you say slow down, you know, they're property owners, they have property rights and they're inside our city and they pay taxes. We wouldn't, it's not like we can just say, well, just keep paying your taxes, we don't do anything out there. So my point being that I think all of us at this table associate with slow down. I really do, I certainly do. I have concerns about growing. But those folks have done exactly what they came to this table and they laid out their plans. There were multiple public hearings about what they were going to do. And so when you say that when you sat down about who's running who, I just want to say I don't think that you are correct in that. I don't think you have the background or know what they did, how they did it, how it was developed, and what they presented here to, I don't want them, St. Joe, to think when you leave here that somebody didn't speak up for not only them, but anybody else that has developed here and has done it the right way, under the right format, under the right system that we have in place. So that section of our city is going to be a great asset to us. It's not tourist, it's long-term rental. It's not short-term rental. So they're going to bring airmen, I'm sure, but other, professional people an opportunity to live out here. So in the infrastructure that we have in place, we monitor that, water, sewer. We can't do a lot about the road. I mean, that's not our road out there, but we're on top of that. We pay attention to it. So I just wanted to make that point. Okay, next.
I really don't want to take up anybody's time, so if you ask,
Well, you stood, and I think we're ready.
All right. I'm going to kind of piggyback on the development. And you asked me to be concise, so I will. December 13th, 22, Mr. Mayor, you walked us through what I thought was a really good PowerPoint presentation. You made a lot of good points about progress. You showed us how much progress had been made, and you showed us the shiny side of the coin and told us, quote, "Our city is vibrant again. How could you not feel good and live here?" Still a quote, "I hope you walk out at the meeting, click your heels, and feel good about where you live. Smell the roses." And that's all good stuff. Good motivating statements, and I think we all needed that. But I got a little puzzled along that same line when you said, quote, "We have preserved our quaint, unique charm and character. We are still a small fishing village." Mr. Mayor, when I drive to the west end of town and have to stop for the one-way traffic being directed by the construction flagman, I lose sight of our small fishing village. Instead, I see over 900 residential units that, when filled, will no doubt triple our city and beach population, will bring another 2,000 new vehicles to our roads, and I'm guessing another 100, 200, or 300 new boats to the boat launch and canal. When we talk about you can't slow down, they own the property, they've met all the criteria, I understand all that. I purchased a little 50-foot by 150-foot piece of property here in Mexico Beach in 1980. And I know things were different back then. But to this day, the city still has control over what I can and cannot do on my property. How high can I build? How much concrete can I pour? How many trees must I have? How many permits do I need to take a tree down? Now you're telling me that this city can't slow down development and growth to a responsible level because it was a done deal years ago and that it's out of your hands? If you can impose and maintain control over my little property that I bought and owned for over 40 years, I don't understand why you can't tell St. Joe Development or Dewberry or Preble Ridge or Atkins of the world that Mexico Beach residents want the brakes pumped. I mean, can you honestly, with what's going on that West End, tell us that you see a quaint, charming little fishing village?
Is that a question?
That's a question.
Absolutely.
What I see is the tip of the iceberg. I see the tip of the iceberg, and Mexico Beach is the Titanic.
I respect that.
Do I need to sit down and come back up?
Okay, anybody else? Next.
Hi, Jean Verne from 101 Ocean Plantation. I just actually needed a little clarification, but before I get to that, I remember the meetings that we had with the St. Joe Company right after Hurricane Michael, and I remember how enthusiastic we all were about the prospect of having housing for workers. I just hope the rents weren't that when they finally finish, but, and I do appreciate your comments on that. What I wanted clarification on was when you mentioned, and my fault for not keeping up on some of the information, but that we had bought property to help with that drainage from the 8th Street Canal.
80 acres.
Yeah, where exactly is that?
At the end of Maryland to 386 to La Siesta, that whole area back over there. When you go on 15th Street and turn and go toward the beach, all the wooded area you see over there.
Okay, that's not the same that the parcel was that was behind where the old Gulf Foods used to be?
No,
That there was some, that's there, okay. But it will be, I know supposedly the Army Corps of Engineers was involved, and it will help channel the water back and out and into wherever it connects in Neverland, so that it won't go into the Gulf, because that
Well,
is,
that's part of
the
That's part of the
process.
plan, is to make it go that way instead of out the 8th Street Canal. But again, we've gotta have, there's several pieces missing to get that canal closed in terms of holding pond before we can channel it that way.
The 8th Street to that parcel.
That's right.
Yeah, and is there something in there that can be, okay, wait and see. Yeah, because that to me, as the gentleman mentioned, is one of the biggest concerns,
Oh,
that,
definitely.
you know, it's yucky sometimes,
We
but
have beautiful water and all of a sudden we get rain and it
it's awful.
pops open and it's just black down there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We,
Okay,
you know.
well, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Mayor, could we have Doug maybe explain the cutoff line for that, how it's gonna be from Maryland on? I mean, he explained to me very well. And there's some people that think maybe 15th Street's going the wrong way right now and it needs to go the other way and it has nothing to do with it.
Sure.
Is that possible, Doug?
So we did just receive $10 million from the state government to help us with our retention pond. So this is a regional stormwater facility on the 80 acres that's being planned that would house a huge holding pond, as the mayor just alluded to, which would help some of these canal systems through our city percolate out into that area and then push the other way. I know that you guys after the storm had great presentations that showed that kayak launch right there at 8th Street, and that is the absolute pie in the sky. And I would like nothing more than put a kayak launch right there myself, but until we figure out a way to battle that water the other way and pushing it uphill, you know, it's gonna have to percolate off a pond on the other side of town to where that it could rise and flow so that water in the middle of the canal system doesn't push onto the properties within that lower section of town. So that's the ultimate game plan. We do have engineers that are working on that, along with that we've already started on. We're in the process of annexing that property right now into the city limits for public property. I think the council got a steal when they got that for $64,000 from St. Joe Company. And we do have requirements set behind that that says we have to complete so much stuff as we go along. So we can't just forget about it, and none of us want to. So I believe it is a project that's moving forward, and the council is just driving that as fast as they can. It's just the mayor mentioned a couple dump trucks full of money. That'll help for sure. But we got a great start on that with what the governor gave us on the 4-year anniversary of Michael's.
Okay.
I got a question for Michelle Miller. This morning, y'all, Doug, in his report, said that we were moving forward with expanding the boat launch. I have some concerns about our boat ramp. Do we have anything that protects us as a city to keep our boat ramp? At any point, I'm concerned that it being St. Joe property, that boat ramp, we put a lot of money and time, and it looks wonderful, it's gorgeous, and that we put a lot of money in it, and then it one day it might just up and tomorrow not be ours.
Valid concern. But it's a 20-year lease, and you know, at some point you have, I guess, just good faith that St. Joe is part of our community. They have annexed that property in. That boat ramp is as valuable to them, and I have personally approached them about deeding that to us, and they upped the lease, if you may recall, when they went, it was down to about, what, 14 years or so, 15, and they upped it. So, I guess you sort of have to feel good about that. I mean, that's our choice. It's not like, I don't think about it, and I think it's part of, it would be very, very nice if we had, for sure, that it wasn't a leased piece of property. But also feel good that I don't think that they would do that. That's just my, from dealing with them.
No guarantees. I mean, nothing in that lease that says they can't take it back tomorrow.
No.
I'd be careful about spending my money.
If I recall, didn't St. Joe put a lot of money and put it around there to start with?
put it all there. Put it
Yeah.
all there. It's there. $1.3 million they put in. All right, next. Yes.
Lisa Logan, Maryland Boulevard. Going back to the stormwater plan and the 80 acres. I have a copy of that overall plan, and it references not just the 80 acres as part of the overall plan, but and in addition to the kayak launch and closing off 8th Street, there were a couple of other properties like the parcel on the curve at 15th Street and another one that were also noticed as drainage basins that needed to be part of this plan. The city does not own those properties, never has. So how is the city going to incorporate what this plan calls major portions of that drainage plan if the city is not making any attempt to try to buy it? And I know that at the curve on 15th Street, we already have a developer who has already tried to develop that property, and permission has not been given because it was discovered that that's a wetlands and a drainage issue. So how is the city going to implement the drainage plan, the stormwater plan, if it doesn't own the properties that are necessary for it?
Well, at least that's what we were talking about, that there are some missing pieces. We acknowledge that. How are we gonna do it? We're gonna have to try to find the 15th Street property, if it remains in the condition that it's being presented to us for development, is gonna be off the table. It won't be, it's not available. So we're gonna have to go to, I would call it Plan B, and look at some of that property behind Guff Foods, which is not the most ideal, but it still may work. But we're gonna have to do some re-engineering to see how that may work as a drainage basin. And hope that if the 8th Street Canal closing it and we can divert enough of that water into a bigger holding pond, that we can get it across the street through that canal that is there behind the old fire station or in front of the, that, and get it to the Maryland drainage canal. Now, I'm not sure, I'm not a waterologist or whatever they call those folks, but there are those that say that we still can do that without the 15th Street. That was the ideal piece. That was the piece that everyone said, get that. We didn't get the money. We didn't get this guy put in a development for that before we could incorporate it into a potential offer. So now it's not on the table. So we're just gonna have to keep hunting and pecking.
Okay,
That's all we do.
as this plan progresses in whatever form, those of us who live on Maryland, on the end right beside this 80 acres, want the city to keep in mind that it's never been explained to any of us exactly how somebody plans to get the water from the canal into that 80 acres. So I want the city to keep in mind down the road, and we don't know how long it's going to be, obviously I know that. But all of the property owners surrounding that 80 acres, we need to know step by step exactly what you're going to do, because, here's your equation and then a miracle happens and then here's your equation. Well, we don't quite trust that. So before you breach the canal and let the water run into the 80 acres, you need to have several meetings.
About you, the first one we let know.
I hope so. Okay. One more question. Up until mid-2017, for about 30 years, we had a system that worked. It was 2 workshops per month plus one voting meeting. And then that changed in 2017. Certainly after the storm, that was a different set of circumstances. But when we went back to our regular monthly or our regular meetings for city council, we dropped the workshops again, and we just have 2 voting meetings. Those workshops were where the citizens had opportunities to come, and if you will remember, they were usually packed. And we had great exchanges with the city council. The city council knew exactly where the people stood. I have yet to understand why the workshops are not part of the regular meeting agenda at this point in time, because they are needed. Can anybody give me an answer?
No, I can't give you one.
I think for a while, we had to have a lot more voting time.
That's what I said, extraordinary circumstances after the storm. But we went back to what we called our regular meetings about 2020. So that is something that this council and subsequent councils need to look at again very, very carefully, because that was the citizens' time. Thank you.
Okay, come on.
I knew
You can hold them back. Rock Creek, Colorado Drive. Just a couple of questions on infrastructure stuff. Because last night it was brought up at the PZ meeting from the guys building down here that there are phases on the south side that we don't have the infrastructure to handle their sewage and everything else when that starts. So right now they're building on this side. When they get done with this side, they can't go to that side because they said it ain't there, capacity ain't there. A couple of meetings ago, you mentioned 15th Street lift station. It's like $1.5 million, I think, to redo that whole lift station. The stuff you put out at the last meeting, I loved. What we did, what we accomplished and everything, because most people forget about what happened. But you have a system in there with so much water, so much sewage and everything else. If we have all that and we're still good to go with everything down here, why is it $1.5 million to redo this lift station, and there's another lift station down here that has to be done, and in the future, when they start building on the other side, the infrastructure for piping isn't even there to handle that. When I look at what you're putting out, we might have the capacity that the city, the county is giving us the water, so we ain't at that max yet. We can get all the water we want. They'll take all our crap, sewage, put it another word, they'll take all that. But the problem is getting it in and getting it out. And that's going to happen here soon. So I mean, that's going to be a big project. That's going to be a major undertaking. And you know, there were some pretty good points brought up last night. You know, you guys sit here and you talk about the infrastructure and restaurants, people not coming in and everything else, and talking about what St. Joe Company's coming, their pockets go all the way down to here. They got all the money they want. I mean, we see what happened on 38, you see what happens down here and everything else. And I went to every one of their dog and pony shows after the hurricane. Every one they had, I went to. I never seen one person from Mexico Beach that said, yeah, this is a great idea, we really want it. Nobody wanted it. But like you said, and you know, looking at LDRs and everything else, as long as everybody, property rights, as long as they follow everything, there it is. I just think you guys need to get a little tougher on their development, which some points came up last night about doing certain different things. And in some of their meetings that I went to way back when, and it was brought up that, yo, we remember we said we might do something on the other side so people could have some parking and some beach access and stuff like that. Once this goes in, and it's coming quick, 215 apartments, they're starting at least in February. That's 215 apartments, it's going to be a shitload of people because they're all 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. You're going to have the 76 townhomes and 96 houses. You're looking at 400 something units, 1,000 people. There's no, anything out there for a restaurant, a sports bar, for anything. And for the beach access, there's nothing. You can't, there ain't even enough parking down here for the people, the boat slips. You know, you got the little bit at the end, and I know Doug mentioned that they get a little extra property for 35 vehicles to park there. That's nothing, that's a joke. I mean, it is, that's a joke. This is all, their big sell is, you got the apartments, people are gonna live there. All the rest of them are gonna be rentals. And it's seasonal. When's seasonal? It's the summertime. What do people do? They go to the beach. Where are they going to the beach at? There's nobody, and I brought this up before. You're putting in this nice little walkway out to the beach. Nobody's going from them damn apartments carrying a cooler, an umbrella, and 2 chairs and making it to the beach. That ain't happening. They might take a 6-pack of beer to walk in, and that's going to be about it. You might want to add some more garbage cans along the route. But I'm serious. Where are they going to go? All your side streets here that go to the beach, you can't park on any of them. You all know that. There's no right-of-ways. There people own their properties right out to the street. You can't even park in the street and drive around 2 cars. Everybody's going to go down to the dedicated beach. Mexico Beach population is double. You know what I'm saying?
I just know you're doom and gloom. That's all I
I'm
know.
I'm not doom and gloom. I just think you need to ask more for them when they're doing stuff and just say, hey.
Well, they have a plan, though, right?
I know they have a plan, but when we looked at everything, and last night we looked again, you know, they got their apartments here, then they got some commercial, and they got the townhomes, and then you have your homes. Wait, well, the commercial, that'll come next time. What are you doing in between? The next time could be 5 years from now, and you got 500 houses down here with 2,000 people, and there's no place to go to do anything. We got 1 restaurant here. And about the beach thing, they were like looking at that again, about doing something, and you know, they don't own the property on the other side of the road. It's nothing. To me, it's like, it's a joke for them to take a bulldozer and push a road down and put a walkway over to the beach that 500 people can get to. I mean, that's nothing. They own the property already. They might not even develop that for 10 years.
Exactly.
But I just think when the time comes, it needs to be a little more, hey, yeah, this is great, but you know, you're affecting the citizens in Mexico Beach. Even though their stuff is there, the comp plan has right in there about affecting the people in Mexico Beach. And these are the people in Mexico Beach.
So are the 900 people that are gonna live there full time.
Well, they ain't here yet. That's you know what I'm saying, though. I mean, there needs to be a little more, because it just, when they get here, the infrastructure's not gonna be here. And like I said, the lift station, what's up with that? If we have all this infrastructure, what's $1.5 million for? You talked about that 2 meetings ago. The lift station on 15th Street had to
I'm a
be
little
redone.
confused. I'm sorry, let me, just slow down a minute.
Okay.
$1.5 million lift station, I guess, when you say we talked about it, help somebody
It was a
beside me.
repair, wasn't
So
it?
we're working on 14th Street, rehabbing 14th Street lift station and Nanook lift station.
Excuse me?
Nanook, those are both being done out of impact fees too, because of the increased usage. So those are 2 of them together. There's not one on 15th Street.
That's what had me confused.
St. Joe just brought one online today, by the way, for the apartments. So they contribute to that as well.
Oh, no, but you just had me confused about the
Okay,
15th.
I had the wrong
I just
street,
didn't-
sorry, I had the wrong street.
Okay.
Are the impact fees there, though, for the future when it comes to their next development that goes in? Because all that's gonna have to be redone. They even
Well,
admit
they're
it.
responsible for that, for all of that.
Well, how, that's,
They're gonna be putting the impact fees into it.
yeah, but I mean, when you say they're responsible for it, they're responsible for their chunk of property.
Well, they're responsible for the roads, they're responsible for putting the sewer lines in. They come to us to ensure that we can service them in terms of water and sewer. But they put, the developer is responsible for putting all of that in.
Well, what about all the city?
All the what now?
The cities, not on their property, but the property before them and on the other side of them. The water pipes and the sewage pipes around their area. That's what they talked about, that they didn't have, there wasn't enough capacity for the city once they got to the phases across the street to do that.
Well, that's 10 years, or we don't even know. They haven't come to us with any plan about the south side.
Well, they talked about that. I mean, that was brought up, and that just lit a bell in my head like, okay, so if that's 5 years from now, where's the planning for this coming from?
So that lift station that went online today, they put that in, we didn't pay for that.
Correct.
No, they
I was
put
there.
all, they put all of the infrastructure. Any developer does that.
So you don't know what they were talking about when they said that there wasn't the capacity for that?
I can speculate that they knew even when they annexed the property in, that there was talk of what they would have to do to generate enough water and sewer capacity for the growth on the south side. They knew that the city, that 10-inch line and that 14-inch water main and 10-inch sewer main, that it has a capacity at some time. And that's what we can monitor right now. If we get to a point that they say, look, we're gonna need another 10,000 gallons of water a day, and we say, look, we don't have that, then somebody, the city, St. Joe, or whoever the developer is gonna have to sit down and say, okay, here's what it's gonna take to make that happen.
Okay.
You know, it's not like, they can't go build it and say, hey, give me water. And they have to come to us and show us what they're gonna do, and we negotiate based on what we have available. If we don't have it, then the developer's gonna have to say, well, here's what I'm gonna do here's what I'm gonna have to do to make that happen.
Okay. So all you answered my question.
They don't hold their thumb on us and say, you have to service us. We want to service them because we need the customers, but what it takes to do that is gonna be in their pocket, not ours.
Okay, so if the rest of the city infrastructure has to be upgraded to handle that, I mean, they're putting in their bigger pipes, and if the city has to put up bigger pipes on either side of them to get the stuff in or out, they pay for that?
Well, they're on the big pipe side of the, but we're not gonna let them steal all our water so that us down here not gonna get it. If that's, I mean, if that's, in simple
I
terms.
understand that.
Okay, I know you do, I'm trying to.
No. But the confusion I got was with the capacity, like the statement you put out on your thing.
Yeah.
That I looked at all that and I was like, well, this is great, we got this and this and this with everything in there. But then when I heard that, I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. It didn't come together.
Well, the time may come where we're gonna have to purchase more capacity. I mean, that's
No
always
question.
possible that it's gonna happen, but, so it's gonna cost us more, but we're gonna have more customers paying more rates, so they should offset each other, but that time is going to come.
Yeah.
Just
like,
when, we don't know.
But like you just answered my question, if we don't have the size pipe for it, then sorry, you can't do it. That's
Right,
okay.
if they're gonna build at a level that exceeds what we have in the ground
Right now.
right now,
Okay.
then we're gonna have to sit with them and say, look, what you're asking to do, but we looked at that prior, now again, that was years ago.
Yeah.
And there's other developments that have happened since then. All we can deal with is who comes to us with paperwork, they're ready to do something, and we want to find out, what does your concurrency report show? Can you furnish us water? Can you furnish us sewer? And we're gonna look at that and say, we can. Now, if we get to the 5th person on the list and he says, look, I want to do this, and we say, wait a minute, we can't do that. We're gonna have to then go and say, okay, Bay County, we need more capacity.
Okay.
So if does that help?
Yeah, no, you answered my question.
Okay.
I thought the city would have to pay for the piping to do that. I realize they have to take care of their own thing. I didn't realize that.
No,
you
new
don't have- what we
development,
have now is-
takes care
okay.
of themselves.
Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you for explaining that.
Okay.
One quick other thing, they said they added another couple of acres or something on the other side for the boat ramp parking? So is that gonna be kind of paved over to
They added 3 acres to the lease last time.
Oh, yeah.
okay.
We had that over.
So that's gonna be right, what, behind where you already plowed in where the trailers are right now? Just on the other side of that?
That's the 3 acres.
That's the 3 acres.
Okay, oh, that's the 3 acres?
That's the 3 acres, yeah.
Oh, so that ain't another?
No, that's the
Okay.
same 3, it's just been
Okay.
cleared. It's just been
Okay.
cleared and
Block,
Millings.
Rock.
Okay.
we park trailers.
Yeah, well, I seen that, but last night they just mentioned that, oh, by the way, we just gave Mexico Beach another chunk of property for.
Well, that was
I didn't,
months back.
okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hey, this is Michelle Miller, Oleander. I want to piggyback off this because I was at that meeting and the gentleman mentioned that they would have the lift station and they would have sidewalks and they would, I don't remember the word he used, they were gonna give it to the city once it was done. So there's gonna be a lift station that we're gonna be maintaining and sidewalks that we're gonna be maintaining. With our lift station situation now, are we gonna pre-plan for, because that lift station's gonna probably need maintenance over the years, we need to start pre-planning if they're giving us that and you're gonna have all this capacity going to that lift station, then we have to plan of how that's gonna be maintained and what's gonna.
Yeah, so they're gonna give us that infrastructure when they're done, but they're also gonna give us all the revenue that sewer is gonna generate. So that should help us offset the cost to maintain it, essentially, in the
Essentially.
grand scheme, yes.
Okay, so I know this was very expensive for 2 repairs of 2 lift stations, so just kind of put that out on the table, we're taking on more responsibility, and I know we're gonna get some revenue, but,
And they did pay impact fees too, even though they put the infrastructure in, they still paid an impact fee. Do you know how much money we've
It's $1
generated?
million just for that.
In impact fees?
216, yeah. Very high.
Can I ask, what's the estimate of the property tax that's gonna come in from that development? Any idea?
We wouldn't know
It's a
that.
lot, right?
I did the math like in 2018, but that's no good now.
Yeah, the tax revenue for ad valorem taxes, it's hard to know what the property appraiser's office is gonna assess that, but it certainly won't be trees and shrubbery, it'll be,
Right.
you know, buildings and
And if people are using them as rentals, whether it rents or not, we're still gonna get the property tax.
we get the profit.
Yeah, okay. The development they put on the other side of DuPont Bridge, because I know Tyndall is expanding, and absolutely. And the Air Force in this area has helped support Mexico Beach since back in the 50s and 40s, but that project over there is already full. I mean, it's absolutely full. It's amazing to me.
It is. Okay, next. No more? I figured that. No.
321, 312 Fortner. What's the current situation or with like under construction, people who have not repaired since the hurricane? Or like structures around us, they're still and have been for maybe this even some of them date back to pre-hurricane, under construction or under repair, and they're still in that state. Don't we have some kind of a policy that when you start construction, you have a time frame or a time limit in which you're supposed to finish? Is that, no, so you can be under construction
You have to just,
forever? And we have no say
well, I don't know
so?
about forever.
Well, permits expire, but you can renew the
Yeah,
permit.
permits expire, but you can renew them, and, you know, it can, a lot of that's
So
handled by the
there's
Florida Building
nothing- yeah,
Code.
So, okay, that answers that, and so that, we'll just be living with that for a long time.
Well, what specific are you talking about? I'm just
Well,
curious. Give me some idea.
Between
Which,
4th and 5th Street, there's a house.
Right on Oleander.
On Oleander,
Oh, yeah.
and since pre-Hurricane Michael, it has been under some form of
that's on our
construction.
radar. That's on our radar too.
And those big, huge, I guess they're called, train,
Connex boxes.
whatever sitting right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And I just wondered if there was a time limit in which that could be cleaned up.
I think those folks, tell them, that's been on our radar just recent, so we can talk to you.
Well, it's
It
been
was-
there for a long time.
Yes, ma'am, it was pre-storm, yes, ma'am. So, I'm sorry. It was pre-storm, and we met with the homeowner through code enforcement with sent them a letter. Our determination right now was that it was a fire hazard underneath the house, and the tarps and everything was covered, and the rats and animals that were living in all the bushes. If you've been by there this week, they've cut down all the trees and trimmed all the bushes, and they've removed part of the tarps and starting to take things out from underneath of it. However, I did tell them that don't go put it in one of those Connex boxes, because you have to get rid of one of those in 15 more days too. So they have to cut that down. You're allowed to have one during your construction phase. You can have a Connex box to store your stuff. So The other one has to be gone. So they have till the end of this month to get the underneath cleaned up, and they've agreed to that, and then we're gonna work on the Connex box just after that. So, and those get brought to our attention. You know, I'm guilty of a blind eye sometimes because you see it so many times. But if you see one you want to get brought to my attention, please email me, call me, whatever, call Kathy at Code Enforcement, and we'll do what we have to do. And those are starting to pay off for the city. We're closing, every time a house closes and we have a $7,500 special magistrate fine put on that person, that city gets paid for that. You know, and I know you have to put up with it for that amount of time, but we do get paid, and those are starting to come in after all of our efforts over the last couple of years.
Sure. Michelle Miller. Yeah. This morning, you talked about the bears and the trash. And about 2 months ago, maybe a little more, I sent you a text and asking you to please check on the garbage cans behind Forgotten Coast. They're the only commercial property that I know on our block that does not have an enclosure for their trash, and the bear loves it.
Next.
I'm glad you shared the gloom and doom type.
I thought that'd make you feel better.
And listen, nobody likes to be that guy. It's a whole lot easier to sit up here and compliment you on your PowerPoint presentation than it is to target you for something that I
Well, let's
don't think
just,
is going right.
thank you. I'll thank you.
However, this next one is concise, and it's bothered me for a long time. September 10th of 2019, Mr. Mayor, at a city council meeting, you introduced a contract proposal from Sheriff Ford to take over our law enforcement operations for the city and in turn abolish our 8-member police department. You told us that the council had requested that proposal. In other words, Sheriff Ford didn't come to us. So on September 10th, citizen input was unanimous. Unanimous in favor of retaining our city police department. Our citizens praised our police department up one side and down the other for a job well done. All of the council members present at that meeting, including 2 that are still here tonight, were in full support of keeping our local police. One councilman at the meeting said he was ready to vote. And he was ready to vote in support of retaining our police department. And you were quoted as saying, no support, no reason to vote on a proposal. There's no support, so let's move on. You stated that this was a waste of work. You glanced at the officers that were present and told them, y'all go back to work. 7 days later, on September 17th, you called a special meeting of the council with one agenda item to vote on the abolishment of our police department. 7 days earlier, you told the citizens it was over. Unanimous support for keeping our PD. You told the officers to get back to work. You told us that you called the special meeting because this issue was so important, so critical, that you wanted all council members to be present. We had one council member absent on September 10th. Still had a quorum, but one was absent. This time, with all council members present, the vote to abolish Mexico Beach Police Department passed 3-2. 2 council members who sit beside you tonight voted to keep the Mexico Beach Police Department. Thank you both. The interesting thing of all that is that had there been a vote on September 10th, as there should have been in my opinion, we'd still have our police department. And we'd have control of the budget and the spending. And had that absent council member actually been present that night and voted along with you, Mr. Mayor, we'd still have our police department because the vote would have been 3-2 in favor of our police department. Now, I'm not going to go into what we didn't gain. We lost 2 positions. The budget, $771,000 now. We're getting ready to put on a new deputy, so I'm sure it's going to go over $800,000. Mr. Mayor, you've been doing this a long time. You know full well how the voting process works, and you know once council vote is taken, pretty much final. No vote, no finality. Here's my questions. Why did you choose not to vote on September 10th?
Same reason you just stated, George, we didn't have a full council.
Even though it wouldn't have mattered?
I don't know what it would have mattered, I don't know what the vote would have been, but I know that we
Well,
didn't have a full
you
council.
had 3 votes
So-
that wanted to retain our police department. You voted, or would have voted no. The absent person, had he been there, let's just assume that he would have voted with you.
Okay.
3-2, right? I mean, that's pretty much how it's been working here last few votes I've been listening to. Different question though. When you did vote 7 days later, and you heard all of the folks, all of the citizens, and your at least 2 of your council members, there was 3 at that time, one had an epiphany, I think. Why'd you ignore the unanimous voice of the people? Everybody's telling you, let's keep our police department. And I know you felt strong.
Let me tell you what,
Okay.
we're here to discuss with this city council, you're on the edge of just, you and I can discuss this after the meeting.
Okay.
I'll be glad to do that with you. Okay, I mean, we've reached a point that my record stands for what my record is. But if you want to discuss it after the meeting, I'll be more glad to do that. This has just turned into a,
Well,
it's on the record.
It's a straightforward question that is on the record. I mean, that's,
Okay,
and you asked me to
and
be
the record
concise.
stands what it is, why don't we, if you got any other comments of city business?
Yeah.
Okay, you're still up there.
And I say this because I truly don't know. I'd like to know, and I think you do, how the process of vetting is handled by the city. In other words, when you get I hate to say high-level position, but when you get a city position, city manager, part-time city attorney, are those folks vetted?
Sure.
Can you tell me how? I mean, who does it? Do you do it? Council do it?
Yeah.
Council does it? How? I mean, do y'all sit around together, or does each one take a section and?
How's it vetted?
Well, I mean, vetting, you know.
Yeah, I understand, I'm just trying to, how's it done? It's done through, we have a job description.
Okay. You have an application, you have an interview process. And after that goes well, then you're gonna do a background check, right?
References. Yeah, we look at, talk to former employees or, all of
Yes,
us.
sir.
No,
I mean, this isn't a trick question.
I understand, I'm not trying to give you a trick answer.
Okay.
I'm just saying, that's how it's done.
So the current city attorney was same process, used same process to hire him?
I don't know about the city attorney. In terms of.
We had a list.
We had a list to choose from.
For attorneys?
Yeah. We had a list.
They came in and.
There was an RFP.
They had-
And then we had a couple of them as an audit that,
Yeah, we had some recommendations,
we all picked.
people that we knew that made recommendations. Okay, what else?
This is another thing I know very little about, millage rates, and I think one of my friends hit upon it. I don't understand it. How, does the city play a part in developing our millage?
Our mill rate is decided by the council for the city.
Okay. Okay.
The county, the school district not, but the city yes.
The increase or decrease.
Okay, and it's decreased recent.
Half a point?
Recent. Still the highest in Bay County, but it's dropped down. Okay, once again, I don't know, so I'm asking. If our millage rate goes down, why are my property taxes going up?
Well, it's not because of the city. It's because of the value of your property that's been adjusted by the county.
Okay.
That's the biggest thing right there. We dropped our millage down, but the value of your property went up very high.
Yeah.
I saw, I think, Zach Childs had on the email the other day, the average selling price in Mexico Beach is well over $500,000. That raises it up. We can only control what our millage rate is for the city.
Okay.
Not the property value, nothing else.
Okay.
I can give you a scenario kind of for some easy numbers. Your house is valued at $100,000. Our millage is $7. That's $700. Your property value goes to $200,000. We lower the millage to $6. Your taxes is $1,200. The tax went up $500, but the mill rate dropped a full mill. So property value plays in a lot of what the property appraiser feels your value is. And we do not have any say in the valuation, only the millage side.
But as you sit around as a council to determine millage, what are the parameters? I mean, you don't just say, well, 7 sounds nice.
It's
5 better, but I mean, what is the basis? How do you say, look, you know, it was 6.5 before the storm. Now, you don't pick a number out of a hat or anything like that.
City budget. And you try, when you do your budgeting, you try to drop your budget down where you can drop your millage down.
You can back into it, figure out your total expenses, figure out your consistent revenues, you know what they are, deduct it out, divide by the value, and boom, this is the amount of money we need, this is the values, this is the rate it's going to take to generate that.
And you wait
That
for
was a
that
way
value
too
to
simple
come
way.
from the county.
No,
We wait for that to come before
We get a valuation as the city as a whole of what it's worth.
Right.
Total value of tax.
Last question. I know, no fault. Somebody else touched on this. I had it, and I just kind of have a couple of different questions. Coming to the meeting, I checked on this too. Mexico Beach has a staffing ratio that can compare or rival any of our city neighbors, regardless of population. I heard you say 38 today. When I looked it up and counted heads, it was 48 plus some contracted employees. And depending on who you ask, we don't have 1,000 people here yet. I mean, you know, it's growing every day, but you don't have 1,000 people here. You guys just approved the addition of a new firefighter, deputy sheriff, an assistant code enforcement officer, and a park supervisor. A park supervisor. I might be supportive of all of that, but here, and here's maybe not the question, but the recommendation. I spent a lot of years in state government. State government, regardless of the department or the program or the office, thrives on being able to measure things. And I think I'd feel a whole lot better, and maybe some of these folks would feel a whole lot better about the number of staff we have currently, the addition of all these new people. If along with that, you could tell us, what are the measurable workload standards to justify all these new positions? In other words, we need a new code, assistant code enforcement officer, because code enforcement officer Kathy was doing 100 permits a year, and now she's got to look at 500. That's a workload standard. Scope of work increases. Maybe we need these people because the people we have right now, their scope is expanded. Maybe instead of being a worker in the sanitation department, when that's a little slow, they've got to go put in water meters or something. Maybe their scope has changed and increased, so they need some help.
Concise, George, please.
I'm just,
I'm trying. You know our history, please.
yeah.
Okay.
You and Rock did some back, that's okay. I'm just saying, where are the workload standards? Where are the scope of work increases that you can say, we need another fireman? I asked our city administrator in a letter a long time ago, how many fire-related service calls does our fire department respond to in a year? I asked that question several years ago when we had a volunteer fire department, and the answer was 4. The answer this year, which was last year, 55. 55 fire-related service calls. That's more fires than we have weeks in the year. I don't think we need another fireman. I think we need 2 or 3 fire prevention specialists to keep all these fires. That's what I'm talking about. Scope of work. Workload increase. Share that with us, and you might make some people happy instead of saying, we don't need no more employees. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. That might be a good one to wind it up on.
If I may, please.
Oh, come on.
This is possibly repeat, and so I apologize. What's the amount of tax revenue we're going to get from the initial phase of the St. Joe development?
No idea.
It's not on the books.
Do we anticipate it will be, or are we ever going to get it?
When they CO, they will.
Yeah, as soon as they have property tax, as soon as their construction's done, they get assessed by the county, then yes, we'll know what that is.
Okay. You'd also touched about some additional businesses or other business coming into the city. So would that allow franchises?
Nothing prohibits them now.
Okay. I just thought maybe that had come up previously and it was not allowed, but nonetheless, thanks again.
Nothing written that states that.
I just want to say thank you for answering my question. I reading the books through and through, in and out, I didn't realize the fact that I thought once you approved a PUD, okay, and it was approved for 1,000 homes, I knew they had to build their infrastructure for 1,000 homes. I thought that because it was approved, that you had to make sure you could supply them with that. Well, the infrastructure for the piping.
No,
now I know you don't, so I did not know that.
When a PUD's approved, they still have the development order process to go through. The PUD is a concept, and they can move it around. So when the development order process comes to the city, or when they are preparing to do that, that's when we look at what their needs are. So that's different than just blanket approval of the PUD doesn't insure them of water, sewer, anything.
Okay.
It just says, we approve of your PUD, now bring us back your paperwork when you get ready to develop.
Yeah, so I didn't read that anywhere. You answered the question on that.
Okay,
But
good.
just like today when I asked Doug to think about all these other developments, that was nice information because as a citizen here, I see all these developments, and I didn't know where they were going. You know, the 3 on 15th Street, the other one there, and the other one there.
Right.
It's like, what's the update on that? So that was nice information to put out today.
Good.
I want to be the last one. I was going to say something. Do you want to be the last one? No, you can say something because I want to be the last one. Go ahead. I don't usually say anything, but well, you might be going to say the last thing that I was going to say, so go for it.
My name is Sue Hogan, and I am at 425 7th Street. I have just a question. I know Lisa hit on this, but tonight to me has been a very interesting evening. And I think that our city lacks the transparency between government and the people of Mexico Beach. A little bit of transparency is needed. So, I know you're not going to want to do this, but if you'll just think about maybe having this meeting once a month instead of once every 3 months. There's a lot that we don't get, you know, I just learned so much just sitting here. And I think if we as a community could work with you all as a council, then possibly we would not have some of the issues that we've been having. Ditto. And I haven't talked to her. You know, I love this community, and I want it to be great, just as everybody who lives here wants it to be great. And you all are a big part of that. But so are we. We are Mexico Beach. And I think it's important. I think it's important that we work together as a whole community. Council,
And listen to us.
and listen, yeah. You know, we have a lot of good ideas. Some of them are not so good. A lot of us are, I am very ignorant to everything that goes on up here. I have to study it and I listen to your meetings on the thing, but it's not the same as having you all right here and letting us give our concerns and you all trying to help us to understand that. So if you can think about it and see how it goes. We've got a great turnout here tonight. It's not all of Mexico Beach, but it's a good turnout, and I think there've been some good things discussed. And so I just ask that you all would consider it and see where we go. Thank you.
I just have a really quick question. Maybe it was covered earlier in the meeting. When you refer to the
Name, please,
oh, I'm sorry. My name is Mary Kenny.
and address.
1200 98th Street. Anyway, so
1200 Highway 98.
Highway 98. Yeah. So
We know
just a quick question. When you refer to the development that St. Joe is doing, a lot of times we refer to it as phase 1 and this and that. Do you have any idea from them what the final build out is?
How many phases is it?
5.
We know that the property in itself, the 550 acres, that they're entitled to put, help me out with the PUD.
944?
There you go.
Excuse me?
944
944
units.
units.
So
We know that, but they have the option of doing that in a multitude of ways. So, but no.
but the most they can do is 994.
944.
944 units.
Units.
Okay, for that chunk
For
of
that
property.
550 acres that were annexed in, known as, quote, Bonfire Beach.
On the north side of the road, that does not include south, right?
Both sides.
It's both sides, okay.
That's both
Okay.
sides? And what's the timeline for the build out, do you know?
30 years.
They don't have to have,
I think the very first proposal they did, it was a 30-year plan, wasn't it? Wasn't
that's
that?
what they said initially.
Okay, so we can look forward to close to 1,000 new units there.
In some multiple forms.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hopefully we'll be around to see the 30-year time.
I wouldn't count on it.
All right, thank you, everyone. Is there anyone else? I don't want to close him.
Thank you.
If not, thank you, everyone, for coming, and
Thank you all.
appreciate it. Have a motion to adjourn?